Welcome, folks, to AI Unscripted, where I bring expert guests into this podcast to talk about all things AI or anything related to digital technology. Today, we have got Nick. Nick, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience? And today, we're going to talk about social selling using all sorts of AI and different tools.
Sure. My name is Nick Rouet, and I'm the CEO and founder of Global Business Advisors, a small consultancy out of Toronto, Ontario. We offer a range of services from inbound, outbound marketing, appointment setting, maps optimization, and more recently, AI application development, as well as AI education for non-technical folks.
Nick, lots of people talk about outbound selling, lots of people talk about social selling and mean all sorts of different things. Walk us through some of your strategies using, LinkedIn, social media. Is it a short-term win, a long-term win? Give us a little bit of insight into the expertise that you employ every day to get real valuable sales over the line.
Well, it's really about who you're talking to and whether they care or not about the things that you're talking about, right? Like I always use this example of, being targeted multiple times for cosmetic products. And obviously I don't use lipstick and blush and things like that, but that's an extreme example, of course. But if you're not really identifying the folks that you're talking to in your messaging, and they aren't in fact the people you're talking to in your messaging, well, of course it's not going to resonate, and it's going to be one of those very annoying messages. Like, is the problem painful that this person's experiencing? Is it a common problem that many people are experiencing, or are you sort of annoying people, right? And we hear a lot about that, particularly from the the content producers out there. Of course it is annoying if it's not meant for you and it's not mentioning you, and it's not a painful problem you experience. Well, it is annoying, and if when done properly, if the person will actually thank you for thinking of them, even if they're not really interested in speaking with you. And that's when you're sort of doing it right.
Yep. So just keep me right here. So for audiences who maybe need that unpacked a little bit, what we're talking about, is the right ICP, the ideal client profile. So you used, for example, the example of you choose not to wear makeup, and therefore when ads come in that offer you makeup or all sorts of cosmetics, it's of no interest. Were you really well targeted and really well defined, that ideal client profile for that makeup company, you would be a lot more receptive to the messages that are allegedly personalized for you as a potential consumer.
Absolutely. Right. And I'm sure there are people out there that would have been interested in that message, just not me in particular.
No, I've had it myself, and I'm not particularly interested in the brand of tampons that were offered to me for the last several years. How I got on that list, I'm not sure. I'm not judging. I would just like off it. Please stop mailing me, folks. So what type of technology are you using, Nick, to target the right ICP? And tell me a little messaging sequence and the methods that you use using AI technology personalization to get the right person into your funnel.
Well, I do use Sales Navigator. Now, a lot of people don't. I actually, get over time, you'll become more and more aware of who those people are that you really need to target, right? And if you're able to create lists in Sales Navigator, that's really effective. And you'll be able to target less and less people as you get more and more in tune with who buys from you. Like for instance, for me, women tend to buy from me, and they tend to trust me, and more than men. So I mean, it's not that I don't target men, but I focus a little less on them, and I it's not women in their 20s. It's more women in their like late 30s to late 50s, and in that range. And so that took a long time for me to sort of to dial in, and it took a lot of iterations and a lot of reaching out to people. I don't use automated strategies on LinkedIn. It goes against their terms and conditions and things like that. But there are ways of defying this, but at first you really just got to talk to people and ask them for their, ask them for their input on what you're offering and whether they'd be interested in it, and approaching it more in that way initially. And of course, that may take some time as well, but you really want to what we call shrug shoulder selling. So right from the very beginning of the process to the actual closure of that sale, you're just sort of shrugging your shoulders and just, if you if you feel like it, Bob, like if you want to hear more, like in the opposite of pressure, whatever that is. And that's really modern selling, right? And selling but not selling, right? And I'll help you. This is the problem a lot of people like you are experiencing, and if you want to hear more about how I can help you, then happy to speak more about it. And that's really it, and right down to the actual closure of it. So what do you want to do now? Like that's my big closing hook line. Like what do you want to do next? And they're going to tell you, and more often than not, that's going to help you not hurt your end result there.
So the opposite of pitch slapping, which is, folks, when someone just connects, the next minute they're selling you everything, and you go, hold on a second here, let's at least form a bit of a relationship as opposed to putting me off day one. And do you have a particular message sequence, Nick? And do you use any technologies in particular to deliver that message sequence? Is it 1, 3, 5 messages, 15, 20?
Well, it's kind of like, as often as many in terms of volume, that's still respectful, but not overkill, right? And you'll definitely know very quickly what that looks like, right? You'll hear, they'll tell you, like live market feedback will tell you what that cadence should look like. But I often see these laundry list of messages, and I think to myself, hey, if this person just took a second and broke this into 4 different messages, and not necessarily sequentially, like bang 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 automatically being sent. Like if you sent this initial message and then the person responded, the second part of that message that they've sent me as one would be appropriate at that stage. And then there'd be a response from the prospect. And then the third part of the, like maybe the ask part would be the third message. And I often say to people as feedback when they send me this giant paragraph, so you have all the elements here with a bit of modifications and tweaking to actually have a really good campaign, but you're just sending it all to me in one big, huge message. And it's very disruptive, and very off-putting. Whereas, they've worked hard and they've thought about it, and they are well-intentioned, right? But a little bit more patience. And I'm highly impatient. Like, I mean, by nature, I am extremely impatient. But it takes a little bit of patience and a little bit of, this might take a week for this person. This might take 2 weeks for this person in this interaction to get to that point. It's not a here and now, do it now kind of thing, right? Like you message them, they might message you back. Like a little bit of tennis goes on there. It's not just here's everything I do, book a call with me. Well, you know, I haven't had a chance to look at your profile. I haven't had a chance to read your testimonials. Haven't had a chance to decide whether this might make sense for me or not. And, short, small progressions to that initial call. And then that sales process kicks off. And of course, we have a very structured approach after that initial call takes place in order to actually get it over the line.
So in technology terms, this doesn't sound technology laden. You're using, LinkedIn messaging, but it's not that you've chosen a particular AI engine on the market that curates all of these sophisticated, deliberate, deeply personalized messages. It's almost, dare I say, Nick, gorgeously retro, where you're removing all of the technology from the process and you're going back to very human methods and very human ways of engaging and working in a digital age.
Yeah, and
Am I right?
Yeah, and it's not hard to do. You just have to be consistent. Like when you get up in the morning, you have to do it, right? And when you, maybe before you sign off for the day, maybe take a peek and see what's going on. And schedule calls. Like it's not rocket science. And like you just have to track what you're doing, right? Like you have to track who's where in the funnel. Like that's a big part of it. And I just use a basic Airtable database to do that. And it's very simple. Okay, this person is more in a follow-up stage. This person's more in a appointment has been requested stage, or clarification question has been asked to try and keep the conversation moving forward. This person has been booked on a call, this person's primed for closure, this is a secondary call that we're having with this person. Have you sent the video, like the pre-selling mechanism video sales letter? Have you sent that over to them? Have you sent, if you're not doing these things and you're not tracking, how the heck are you going to know who's where and what? And that's where the opportunities are lost. People don't know who's where, and they're treating them like they're an initial lead and they've actually already met with them, and it's a big mess, right?
Well, if you can't track it, every conversation doesn't sound like a unique, personalized, soft and gentle follow-up. It sounds like you're talking to me for the first time, and that sounds mechanistic. Nick, to leave our guests with any going away gifts of knowledge, what would you say to them if they want to be truly successful in an age where digital technology and remote working appears to be an ever increasing, ever effervescent thing? But realistically, we want, from what you're describing and your successes, to put the human back into the process, not so much the digital.
Well, I would just encourage people to think of what you're doing. It's pretty simple. I mean, think of what you're doing as if you were the person, right? Like, how would you feel if someone approached you doing what you're doing? And it's pretty. If a lot of people don't do that, just think to yourself, if you were bombarded by this, message that has nothing to do with my position title, or nothing to do with my industry, or nothing to, well, how would you feel about it? Oh, it kind of be stale, or, take into consideration the way you're reacting to messages that are coming to you on a regular basis, and distinguish yourself from that. Like, don't play in that world. Like you kind of got to be different in the sense, like, okay, how are we checking boxes? Are we even making a checklist of these boxes that we need to check? Like, are we even thinking like that? Like, who does it help? Okay, is that the person? Does that identify the person you're messaging? Have we identified the problem? Does the person we're messaging have this problem likely, right? Or their audience, does it highly likely have that problem? Okay, do we have a solution that we're offering for that problem? Like, hey, I have a solution to it. And do we have some sort of proprietary methodology or formula, differentiator that stands us out? And does that formula reflect something that is a deep desire of that audience? So take, for instance, a financial advisor. Like, what do these people want, right? Like, what do these people? They really want assets under management or assets under care, right? Like, that's what they don't care about anything else. That's all they're focused on. And so does our proprietary method associate with that, which is their major driving factor in that industry, let's say, or something like that, right? That's something that they deeply desire and aspire to become, and when I do this in insurance, let's say there's like a senior insurance level that it take you 20 years to get there, and all the insurance people want to be those, something like that, right? And making sure that your method is in fact different than all the noise that they see out there.
So let me summarize for guests. So in an age where people yin, you yang, you put the human back into the digital. You truly identify the person who wants or should want your product or service. You talk to them in a language that they will understand, which is human, not tech. And as a result, you're successful. Nick, thank you for sharing what has been a wonderful podcast today. Some wonderful knowledge. Folks, it isn't about the technology, it's about the people. Let's not forget that. Nick, thank you. I wish you every success, sir.
Thanks, Kieran.